Rent of this building will consider as fixed or variable cost. Then the employees who are working here in this building, their salary will be considered as fixed or variable cost.
Okay, dear students, by looking at this example, one thing we have noticed that in reality it is very difficult to categorize cost into fixed and variable cost. Why? Because most of the time costs are semi-variable, okay, in by nature. So it is very difficult for us to differentiate or to divide cost into fixed and variable cost by looking at some particular cost or some particular elements. Okay, so for that, so there are three methods which we can use to divide cost into fixed and variable cost. Okay, first method which we can use to divide cost into fixed and variable cost is high-low method. Okay. Then second method which we can use for dividing total cost into fixed and variable cost, it is scatter graph method. Okay. Then the third method which we have to differentiate between cost is regression method or least square method. Okay, so first of all we will discuss high-low method and how we can use high-low method to differentiate or to divide cost into fixed and variable cost. Okay, so what actually we will do in high-low method, let's discuss it. Guys, this method consists of selecting the period of highest and lowest level of activity. Okay, and then you have to compare the change in cost that is resulted from two periods. Okay, so it is very simplest method. Okay, first of all you will identify the level of activity, the highest level of activity of your company. Okay, then you will identify the lowest level of activity, the level you have where you have produced least output. Okay, where you have manufactured least units. Okay, so first of all you will identify the level where you have produced highest units or highest productivity. Then you will identify the level where you have produced least productivity. Okay, where you manufactured very least units. Okay, once you have identified these two activities, then you will compare the change in cost that occur between these two activities. Okay, so there are three steps which we will follow to use this method or to implement this method. First thing that you have to do is to identify, as I said you earlier, identify the highest and lowest activity of level. And then second step that you will do for calculating or for dividing the total cost into fixed and variable cost, the second step that you will use is you have to identify variable cost per unit. Okay, that will be easiest to calculate it. Okay, which is very easiest to calculate. Okay, then third step is that you have to calculate your fixed cost. Okay, all these steps we will follow here, and on the basis of these steps we will identify or we will divide our total cost into fixed and variable cost. Oh guys, as I said you earlier that we will follow three steps to identify or to divide total cost into fixed and variable cost. Okay, so here we have three different level of activity. Okay, first at highest level of activity, our highest level of activity is 3000. Okay, and then our lowest level of activity is 2000. Okay, and at highest level of activity our cost is 10,000, and at lowest activity level our cost is 8,000. Okay, so using this cost we will identify variable cost per unit. Okay, by using this cost we will identify variable cost per unit. Okay, so how we can identify it? For that we use variable cost per unit can be identified by using this formula. Okay, what we will do here, we will first write cost at highest activity level. Okay, it is 10,000. Okay, then cost at lowest activity level, it is 8,000. Okay, then second we have to divide it with activity at highest level. Okay, activity at highest level. Okay, so our highest level of activity is 3000 and we will deduct activity at lowest level. Okay, so lowest activity here is 2000. Okay, now it is very simplest to calculate variable cost per unit. Okay, so let's see our highest activity of, so our cost at highest activity level is 10,000. So the cost, our total cost at highest level of activity, it is 10,000, and our cost at lowest activity level, it is 8,000. Okay, and we will divide it. Activity at highest, it is 3000, and activity at lowest, it is 2000. Okay, so the difference between 10 and 8 is, and the difference between 3 and 2 is 1. Our cost per unit is 2. Okay, so here our cost per unit is 2. Okay, now it becomes easiest for us to go toward our second step, that is identifying your fixed cost. Okay, so our second step is to identify your fixed cost. How we can identify it? Let's calculate it. Okay, how we can calculate it? Let's do it. Okay, okay guys, we have identified variable cost per unit. Okay, now we will identify fixed cost. Okay, on the basis of this cost we will be able to identify our fixed cost, and for that, for identifying our fixed cost, we will use this formula. Okay, cost at highest activity level, it is 10,000. Okay, then we will deduct highest activity level, it is 3000, and we will multiply it with per unit cost which we have identified. Okay, so cost at highest activity level is 10,000. Okay, we will deduct highest level of activity, it is 3000, and we will multiply it with 2. Okay, so here 10,000. Okay, so our fixed cost is 4,000. Okay, now it is very simplest to know how many cost. Now it is very simplest to divide this cost, total cost, into fixed and variable cost. Okay, so the total cost is total cost is equal to variable cost plus. Now the third step we will do here, we will identify our variable cost. We have identified variable cost per unit, we have identified our fixed cost, total fixed cost. Okay, now the third step is to identify your variable cost. Okay, so we know that our total cost is equal to variable cost plus fixed cost. Okay, so the total cost here is 10,000, and it is equal to variable cost which we do not know right now. Okay, and we know our fixed cost, it is 4,000. Okay, our fixed cost is 4,000, so it is very simple to calculate it. It is 10,000, we will deduct this 4,000 equal to variable cost. Okay, okay, so our variable cost is equal to 6,000. So this is one of the simplest method, high-low method, which we can use to divide total cost into fixed and variable cost. Our fixed cost is 4,000 and our variable cost is 6,000, and here is our total cost. So we have used high-low method to divide this cost into fixed and variable cost. Okay, suppose next year your total cost is, okay guys, on the basis of this data we have identified variable and fixed cost. Okay, suppose that next year your activity level exceed to 3,000. Okay, sorry, and suppose that next year your activity level exceeded to 5,000 activity. So how you can identify your fixed cost, or how you can identify your total cost on the basis of this activity level? Okay, suppose we will use a very simplest equation for this. Okay guys, suppose that next year you have produced, you have manufactured, your output level is 5,000. Okay, you have manufactured 500, yeah, 5,000 units. Okay, oh yes, suppose that next year you have manufactured 5,000 units. Your output level is 5,000, but you do not know how much cost you have consumed on when you manufactured 5,000 units. What will be your total cost? How will we calculate it? So it is very simple to calculate your total cost when you have your fixed cost and when you have your variable cost per unit, which we have already calculated. Okay, so how we can calculate it? For that we will use this simplest equation. Okay, your y represent, okay, here your y represent total cost, your a represent your fixed cost, and your b represent your variable cost per unit, and x represent your level of activity as it is 5,000. So now we will calculate our total cost. As we know that y represent total cost. Okay, so at this activity level we want to know our total cost. Okay, we do not know our total cost and we do not know our variable and fixed cost. So how we can calculate it? Let's do it. Okay, y equal to a is your fixed cost and it is 4,000. We know that fixed cost remains same against the level of activity. Okay, whether you produced more quantity of goods or you produce least quantity of goods, your fixed cost remain constant against the level of activity. So it was 4,000 in previous year and still it is 4,000. Okay, because it doesn't react against the level of activity. Okay, so plus B represent your per unit cost, variable cost per unit. Okay, it is 2, and X is represent your activity level. So your activity level here is 5,000. So y equal to 4,000 plus 10,000. Okay, so your y equal to 14,000. So your total cost is 14,000. We have calculated it on the basis of this equation. Now we will calculate our variable cost. Okay, we already know our fixed cost, but we do not know our variable cost. So how we can calculate it? Let's do it. So our total cost is equal to variable cost plus fixed cost. Okay, so total cost is 14,000 and variable cost we do not know about it, we have to calculate it. Okay, and fixed cost is 4,000. So 14,000 less 4,000 equal to variable cost. Okay, so variable cost equal to 10,000. So here our variable cost is 10,000. Okay, it is very simple to calculate it. By using high-low method, we have calculated our fixed and variable cost. Okay, and in next session we will use scatter graph and we will use a least squared method, which is called as regression method. Okay, and on the basis of those methods we will calculate our cost.